Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you and a very good afternoon. On behalf of CIO&Leader and Microsoft, it is my pleasure to welcome you to MasterClass on Simplify Compliance and Reduce Risk in our 22nd CIO&Leader Annual Conference. My name is Jatinder Singh, Associate Editor, Enterprise Technology 9.9 Group, and I'll be your session host for today. Once again, to all participants and panelists, thank you for joining us today. As organizations go through digital transformation, they are generating and consuming much more data as compared to the previous years to get an edge over their competitors. This data is critical for enterprises to stay relevant, empower their employees, engage customers, provide exceptional customer experiences, and optimize operations. Managing this data and the variety of devices on which it is created can be complicated, especially when it comes to ensuring compliance. As we all are noticing, not only is the amount of data which IT must manage is exploding, regulations on how this data can and should be handled are also getting more and more complex. Collecting customer and citizen data is often an integral part of how public and private sector organizations function. There has been a progress over the last few years. However, the challenge of maintaining and protecting personal data continue to create challenges amongst organizations. Regulations are creating a need for responsible usage of data and the stakes are high. Not complying with regulations can result in significant fines, data loss, reduced credibility amidst other challenges. Keeping up with constantly changing regulation, real-time assessment versus point-in-time assessment, siloed knowledge concerning IT risk management are some of the key challenges that businesses are facing today. While IT and security admins may know the technology solution, they do have challenges in terms of understanding regulations. Contrast that with compliance, privacy, and legal teams who tend to be familiar with the regulation, but they are not the experts in technology available to help them comply. In our masterclass today, we will learn from our distinguished panelists how to mitigate the enterprise risk challenges and simplify compliance and meet global industry and regional compliance regulations and standards. We have eminent speakers with us. Mr. Subodh Kumar, Partner Director, Product Management and Security Research, Microsoft. Prashant Singh, Director, Cybersecurity Tech Specialist Lead, Microsoft. Sandeep Karan, Head Cybersecurity, L&T Technologies Services. I would like Prashant to take it ahead and have this conversation with these esteemed panel. We will also have time for Q&A at the end of this session. So please continue to post your questions and make sure that you participate in our quiz initiative as well to win exciting prizes. Over to you, Prashant.
Thanks, Jatinder. And I welcome everybody all again for the Masterclass, CIO Gurukul Masterclass for Simplifying Compliance and Reducing Risk. I am Prashant. I will be continuing the discussion as Jatinder had started and, lean on to Subodh and Sandeep to keep on supporting in terms of the overall conversation. From an overall agenda perspective, how we have divided, we will be taking the customer persona and the industry challenges through how Sandeep dwells upon the various industry problem statements. And we'll be hearing from Subodh the engineering viewpoint of how the solutioning, security solutioning from Microsoft is aligning to address these, industry problem statements, and what are the key takeaways. Getting started with the core problem statements. I think we generally understand data is exploding. The problem or the data spread has ever increased with the rise of digital transformation, with the data being available on apps, experience, and services. And generally, the responsibility of addressing data has significantly increased on IT and security in terms of addressing compliance needs. What data to keep, what data to retain. IDC predicts by 2025 we'll be generating around 163 zettabytes of data, and that's a phenomenal thing. How to ensure we have effective control. So getting started with the first set of problem statements, we lean on to Sandeep to reflect upon, how the industry looks at how do we control, the data as it is shared inside the organization, inside or outside the organization. From the data volume, as we try to contain the data explosion, do we know, what data we have to retain and what data we have to, eliminate to ensure the data is contained, or generally understanding data permissions management, access management, the right people having the right access to the data, or do we have enough information about the audit aspects of data, just so that in case of breach or compromise, breach investigation or compromise investigation, we can try, trace back, the perpetrators. So over to Sandeep to develop on some of these challenges in his own words. Sandeep, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Prashant. See, conventionally, most of the organizations started with on-prem kind of an environment, right? And then slowly started moving towards cloud, right? So infrastructure as services, platform as services, okay, software as services, okay. And then on top of it, you have heterogeneous environments, right? So you have option of Azure, okay, AWS, GCP, okay, and many organizations adopt multiple clouds also. It's not that you just stick to one cloud, but you have multiple clouds. Okay, and to add on to it, okay, you have multiple tenants also. You have your own tenant, and then at times when you work on certain projects, customers also have a tenant, and they insist, okay, for this project you have to use our tenant or a separate tenant and all that. Okay, so that angle is also there. So if you see, the data is completely fragmented. Okay, right from on-prem, okay, in your file servers to your local machines, laptops, desktops, okay, in cloud, okay, different service providers, okay, and then different tenants also. Okay, it's completely fragmented. So getting hold of data is becoming challenging every day. Okay. So now, when you have such environment, okay, knowing your data volume is again very challenging. Okay, because on-prem, at least you can say, okay, I have a storage of X capacity. Okay, I'm utilizing 70% of it. So probably my data volume is so much. Okay, at least that much you can do. But what about cloud? Okay, you have multiple service providers, then multiple tenants. Then how do you know what is your data volume? Okay, and when you don't know your data volume, okay, how will you come to a conclusion saying what data needs to be retained? Okay, what data needs to be removed? Okay, there's absolutely no idea. It's just a call. Okay, I have so much of data. Can we just look at reducing data? But
Makes sense.
how do you reduce your data? Okay. Now, if we have to do this intelligently, okay, we need to know, okay, how many files are there. Okay, now out of these files, how many are confidential files, how many are proprietary files, or how many of these files carry PII data or any such data which is required for various compliances. Okay, we need to know that. Okay, we also need to know, okay, how many of these files are or the data is being actively used. It's not that some data is just lying for ages there without being used or accessed at all. Okay, so you need those insights also, right? And who are accessing these files, right? Because unless you keep a track of who is accessing these files, you will not know if these files are compromised also and somebody who are not authorized, okay, they are using these files. Okay, and the other question there is, how do you investigate in case of any security incident or some compliance need? Okay, then how do you investigate on these files? Okay, so these are some problem statements which we face on day-to-day basis.
Thanks, Sandeep, for this insight. And you've generally highlighted that the fragmentation creates a challenge. And with the rise of cloud and the digital, definitely the problem statement has become quite broad-based. And yes, we will continue to develop on these problem statements. If we were to sum it up into, the solutioning approaches addressing these problem statement, some of the thematics do come into picture, whether, how do you define a data governance strategy for retention, deletion, or how define data access permission management to be able to effectively do user and audit tracking, to be able to understand how the data are changed in case of investigation. So we'll revisit some of these problem statements as we build upon the overall solutioning plan across these. Going further into the additional problem statements and continuing the journey, data regulations definitely, there are challenges associated with the spread out nature of the data itself, keeping a tab of the regulations, the applicability, technology interpretation, and there's definitely India PDP bill coming, which is getting firmed up, and also ensuring not just the gap assessment, but the technology clarity and applicability is, and ensuring how communication collaborations across the enterprise is also in a compliant manner. So there are generally quite a broad problem statements which we would like to understand from Sandeep the point of view how he manages addressing these compliance and regulatory challenges and objectives in terms of fulfilling requests around how to ensure effective activity tracking, or if the data has to be provided in terms of reviewing process, how all of these objectives get fulfilled. So Sandeep, if you can develop on these areas as well. Thank you.
Right, Prashant. So earlier I was talking about challenges of knowing the data, monitoring the data, and tracking your data. Right. Mm-hmm. So these were three areas which primarily I was trying to highlight. OK. Now, these three things are your prerequisites to many other things. OK, like managing data. Okay, so if you don't know your data, you're not monitoring the data and tracking the data, how do you manage your data? Okay, how do you meet compliances? Okay, and data privacy regulations. Okay, like GDPR. Okay, your CCPA, etc. Okay, and India also, as you rightly said, it's likely to come, right? It will come very shortly, right? So how do we meet such compliances? Right now, if we don't know our data, can't monitor or track data, then there is no way you can fulfill compliance obligations. Okay, it is very challenging. Okay, now the challenges which will be faced, okay, are like how do you set up your processes? Okay, when I say processes, processes for monitoring, tracking, okay, how do you set up that processes, okay, or archiving or deleting data, right? How do you set up those processes, right? And if you set up those processes, okay, are they manual or Excel based? Okay, if they are manual and Excel based, again, tracking, okay, and tracking the execution of processes is again a challenge for us. Right. Absolutely. So it will become challenge. Okay. Then comes the question of accountability and ownership of data. Okay. Who is accountable for data? Okay. Who owns the data? Right. So these are again some questions which keep coming. Okay. And last but not the least, okay, is on evidence capturing. Right. So in Absolutely. Case of any event, or in case of any dispute or related to compliance or something like that, okay, then how do you capture evidences? How do you show evidences? Okay, so these are all challenges which are today there and needs to be addressed.
Thanks, Sandeep, for that elaboration. And rightly said, our choices of data strategy, collaboration spaces, methodology of sharing, and the spread out nature of these things can create problems in generally assessing compliance control applicability, capturing execution, tech, what exactly the tech, remediation has to be applied, and effectively monitoring in a continuous sense. If we look at the, categorize into a solutioning perspective, what are the approaches and, how to, address this compliance and data privacy management. ensuring regulatory control mapping review, not just in terms of gap assessment, but also the technology interpretation and execution, and as rightly said by Sandeep, even execution capture, because to audit, auditors, these would be very important, and ensuring the sustenance in terms of, ensuring from a compliance point of view, doing discovery, data subject requests, and legal investigations. So yes, these are some of the problem statements we'll revisit as we keep on aggregating the overall problem statements related to this. And very rightly, Sandeep has touched upon the data protection as a charter. I mean, it's not just about knowing the data, but what is the next steps? Oftentimes the strategy may align about knowing the data, but that is only leading to the fact that once we know the data is sensitive, we need to protect it as well, and that generally touches every aspect of the organization. So, continuing the discussion in terms of the data protection strategy and industry problem statements, I think this is some of the continuation of how Sandeep mentioned. I mean, do we really know, where the critical data resides and what is being done with it, how it's being used, the audit aspects? I mean, when we, start looking at, classifying the label or tagging it and defining a protection strategy, is it, applicable to all aspects of collaboration or just, some of the phases? And going into deeper into insider risks and also ensuring that the data and the collaboration experiences and communication are done in a compliant manner. These are some of the problem statements we'd like Sandeep to highlight it further as he experienced this through the lens of the industry. Over to you, Sandeep.
Yeah, Prashant, I think you brought a very interesting point on labeling and classifying data. Okay, but Prashant, it's not as simple as just classifying and labeling documents. Okay, because see, when we say labeling and classifying, okay, so we have to label and classify documents as well as emails. Okay, and an organization like us, okay, we are into engineering services, so we have a lot of engineering drawings and other things which are there, right? So now, how do you label and classify them also? Okay, and some time back we were also talking about data lying in cloud, okay, data lying in SaaS applications, okay, data lying in our tenants, data lying in customer tenants or third-party tenants, right? Now, do I have a single solution which can do all this? Okay. Now let's say if we are saying no, there are multiple solutions, something for email, something for document, something for engineering drawing, something for cloud, something for my customer is using something. So different solutions, right? Now, if you have such different varied solutions, okay, then how do you protect your data? Okay, you do classifications, you label them. Okay, using multiple solutions. Now, how will your DLP solution work? How do you protect it? How will your CASB solutions are working, right? So do I have a single solution there also for DLP? No. Sometimes we use sometimes the endpoint DLP is different, email DLP is different, network DLP is different, cloud or CASB solutions are different. Can all these multiple solutions identify multiple labeling and classification tools? No, there is a challenge, right?
Correct.
First, implementing so many solutions will take time. Okay, if I have 5 solutions and let's say you know how much time each solution will take, right? So you take that much time to implement, then you have to integrate also once you have implemented. So it takes a hell lot of time to implement, integrate, and then get an integrated view. Right. Now, see, this DLP solutions, they also generate lot of logs, okay, and alerts, okay. Now, unless and until you, for each employee, okay, you see a history of what they are doing, what kind of alerts are coming, there is absolutely no way you can identify insider risks. Okay, for identifying insider risks, okay, you need to correlate that data. I cannot see only data related to today and say, okay, there is an insider risk. No, insider risk doesn't work that way. Okay, you have to correlate data over a period of time. Okay, and then you can identify. Now, if you have so many solutions for labeling and alerts, then how do you correlate? Again, you have to do it outside. Then there's a issue of extracting data, loading data, transforming data, and then comes your analytics view. Okay, so these are all challenges. Okay, so
Thanks.
Prashant.
Thanks, Sandeep. I think you rightly said that, the fragmentation is quite real because, oftentimes the strategy itself has to be thought through across the entire space and the entire life cycle, not just from the data identification, but, what are the next, 3 stages, which as an organization we need for the sustenance of compliance controls applicabilities. So very rightly said by you, Sandeep. And converting to these problem statements from a industry solutioning, I think some of the things mentioned: data classification, labeling, information protection strategy, including DLP, including rights management inside and outside the organization, including more correlated view of DLP with inside risk management, and effectively manage communications in a compliant manner. So all of these are again solutioning objectives, again lying with the data which at some point of time all of these things become quite important. If we sum up all of these problem statements and the related industry solutioning, we typically see a good amount of fragmentation. And generally, if we take a look back and see how our journey of the last 5 to 10 years of addressing this data evolution has been, and it's quite complex across these different objectives and sub-objects. That's the one thing which Sandeep has highlighted across the data governance, compliance, discovery, and data protection. Apart from that, the spread out nature of our storage strategy also definitely adds to the ecosystem, whether you're storing data with Microsoft or you still a lot of data stored in on-premise or with third-party enterprise or consumer base, which with enterprise context, So all of these means that when we look through the problem statements and solutioning above, we also have to look at the way our data strategy and the applicability of these solutions with a bit of homogeneity in terms of addressing rather than fragmentation, which is a problem statement from an industry point of view. I mean, if we Sandeep, I mean, your views when we look at all of these problem statement, and you have highlighted enough, and just a bit of more elaboration. How do you think, you have been meeting your needs till now? When you look at all of these things now together, you may have taken, some decision at some point of time, some decision, I think. But generally, all of these things do combine on day to day from a responsibility perspective. So, like, if you can elaborate on this as well. Yeah.
So, okay. So, Prashant, this challenges what I have been talking about, right? So, what we did is we evaluated quite a few tools, okay, and solutions for this, okay, and then we realized if you are investing in various solutions, okay, different solutions for meeting different objectives, okay, then consolidating everything and getting a single view of what we need, right? What I was talking to you about, getting insights, looking at the historical data and getting those insights, okay, is a challenge. Okay. So then what we did is we said no, this is not going to work this way. We need a single solution provider, okay, who can provide us a solution across majority of the domains, right? So majority of the areas, if they can combine like a solution which speaks, okay, the DLP, let's talk about the DLP, okay, or let's start with labeling first, okay. So the labeling and classification. So once you do labeling and you classify your data, okay, now this labeling and classification of data and emails should be read by your DLP solutions, right? So when I say DLP solution, the DLP can be your endpoint DLP, it can be your email DLP, network, or your cloud DLPs, CASB solutions, okay? They have to understand that data and identify what is sensitive, what is not sensitive, okay? Not just based upon the classification, but content of the files, documents, or emails, whatever it is going, okay? It should be intelligent enough to do that, right? Then comes your analytics on top of it, or reporting layer, okay, which helps us in identifying insider risks, meeting compliance, governance, or monitoring tracking. Okay, and when we do this centrally, right? So we also have a provision of capturing the evidences also. Okay, because you have the data centrally, and then you have the historical data also, and you have provisions for legal holds or retaining the data, etc. Right? So all that is possible. Okay, so we then found the Microsoft solution, which was meeting this criteria, and that's where we adopted the Microsoft solution in this.
Thanks, Sandeep. Thanks for the perspective of generally reflecting the challenge and the complexity. And what you mentioned was, you're generally trying to address a lot of these challenges in togetherness context, and that is how you want to simplify your overall compliance journey. With that segue, we will lean on to now Subodh, who will provide the Microsoft security engineering context of how Microsoft is thinking through all of these problem statement challenges in togetherness, not as individual areas, and to get better visibility in context to the compliance problem statements. Over to Subodh to get started the journey about these areas. With the first pillar we identified with conversation with Sandeep around the data governance charters as well. Subodh, if you can elaborate, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant. Thanks to you and Sandeep. I think you folks did a very awesome job of laying out issues, and I like the structure which you did, that there is a governed data because business is producing data. Now, once we have that data volume increasing, we have set of needs which are articulated in this slide, and then you get into, since you are functioning as a business in multiple markets, your need to ensure regulatory compliance grows and needs. So that's the second set which you guys established. And third, then it leads into protection because your people are working from various places in various market conditions and network conditions. So now you are worried about your protection. And finally, I think I heard you folks talking about heterogeneity. I think all these four aligns very well with our product engineering strategy. Before I jump into the slide specifics, I'm going to use few terms repeatedly because that informs our product strategy. So one is built-in. What we term as built-in is that we are not targeting to provide a platform. Rather, we are targeting to provide a solution which should just work out of box. Because if we provide platform, then there is some engineering expenses which our customers have to do to suit their need. And that's where our endeavor is to, whatever product we build it more as a solution so that it can just function out of box. And what it also means is that since our market is global in nature, to meet everybody's need out of box is a very tedious task. And that's where we run a program called as design partnership, where as part of our engineering, we invite customers to partner with us in engineering those products. So that is a note which I would like to pass on through this session to every customers who are listening. If they have interest in partnering with us, they can get in touch with us. So built-in is first strategic thing. The second strategy is to do cloud scale AI and automation. Now, as Microsoft, we are getting roughly 7 trillion signals every day, actually. So we have access to signals through Windows. We have access to signals through Azure. We have access to signals through Office 365. Plus, we have done partnership, and we are part of community. We have done partnership with the OpenAI platform, which gives us access to a lot of content. So we use this content to build models to make our experience more and more intelligent. And I'm going to talk about this word intelligent often in various solution and needs. The third key strategy is integrated. When we went into the conversation, we realized that all the needs which Sandeep talked about, whether it's around governed data or around compliance or around data protection, these are all interconnected somewhere. As example, one very basic need is to classify data. Then only you will be able to do retention. In certain countries, if you have offer letter, which you are giving to your candidate, you may have to save those offer letter for 3 months, while in other country, you may have to retain it for 6 years or in some countries, some document needs to be retained for 30 years. So how can I be able to create a retention policy as part of my record management solution, which is differentiated based on classified data and the localities? That becomes very interesting challenge, and that is what we serve through Govern Your Data set of solution, where not only we are providing classification, which is intelligent, picks up content, and then on top of it is policies which are sitting, where you are deciding which kind of content in which country needs to be retained for how long. And then it has a workflow to manage your entire data life cycle so that you can dispose it when you want to dispose it. And that is where record management is a solution which sits on top of that. Now, if you can go back, Prashant, to the previous screen. Now, Govern Your Data is just one set of solution. But related with that, if you move clockwise, is a privilege access management. Who are the people who are accessing? And Sandeep has talked about people who are accessing, and that is he's top of mind actually. And the way we have designed privilege access management, it also helps you meet your zero trust need. So which creates your security posture in a better way. And that is the interconnection which I was referring, that this also feeds into your security posture and handling against any other attacks actually. Can you come back to previous section? Then the last one is audit. Audit. We are auditing all the activities done across all the services, whether Microsoft or non-Microsoft. We have designed the pipeline, which we call as NRT actually, which is near real time, which does millions of log generation and then creates a unified view, which makes your forensic or data investigation activity easier actually. And I recollect Sandeep also talked about that in context of asserting this specific need. So in governed data, if you see, there are a set of solutions which we have built. And this is very foundational solution which you have seen our customers using when they deploy Exchange or when they go for Teams or when they go for SharePoint. That's the first set of solution which we have seen our customers using to ensure they are able to manage that data. Over to you, Prashant.
Thanks, Subodh. And moving on with the solutioning approaches, the next set of things is how to generally address compliance and the risk associated and the compliance management space itself. So Subodh, over to you from an engineering thought process, how we have thought through this area as well.
Yeah, so this one has some new elements which we came out in last 18 months or so. So let's go clockwise on this. So can you click on compliance core? So this solution came from that need which Sandeep was describing, that since as a company they are operating in multiple countries and they have this notion of ODCs. It talked about in certain countries they have tenants which are actually customers' tenant and they have to operate on it, while they have their own tenant also, and then they have multiple cloud services, etc. So it throws up two very distinct challenge. One challenge is that since as a business we have seen our customers are operating in more than one country, they have to ensure compliance with multiple regulations. The second challenge is there is a heterogeneity of services here. The environments are different. So what it maps to. So when we were designing this product, we realized that to be able to serve globally, we have to have out-of-box assessment templates. And that is what we did in this product. We have 300 plus assessment templates, meeting all the regulation which are typically used by our customers. Now, each of these assessment templates are having controls, and those controls are mapping to every workload control. So let me do a distinction here. So there are these compliance controls which are representing what regulation is asking for, and those are mapping to say a control of SharePoint, a control of OneDrive, or control of Exchange, or control of Teams, or control of DLP or INTT, or any other third party which you can think of. So that was the second thing. So that is what we refer as built-in control mapping. So you don't have to do it yourself. The third thing which we did is we created a continuous tracking mechanics where there is a continuous feed of any change which happens in regulation hits into the solution, so you don't have to do it yourself. And then it keeps showing you improvement action. And this improvement action actually helps you resolve any residual control, which becomes a risk for you eventually, right? And there is a complete end-to-end experience which we design around it. Now, there are dashboards and insights which are built on top of it. So as you can see in the screen over here, it indicates you what is your compliance score. So like you are worried about your security posture, same way compliance posture is what you can get by this kind of screen, which Prashant is highlighting. Thanks, Prashant, for doing that. And so from your day-to-day perspective, for a executive, this is the summary to view. And the action for team members come from the right side list, which you see, that is where the improvement actions are. And those improvement actions, like Sandeep was describing, are very distinctive actually. One is, which is business as usual, like it is already funded, resources are there, it is just one action to be done. But then there are other set of actions which might need some GRC workflow of some budget approval or resources, etc. So you're able to do each of those workflows within the context of the solution itself, end to end.
Thanks, Subodh. And I would also like to hear from Sandeep. I think you went through this particular solution, and it was also quite interesting for you the way it addresses technology mapping, keeps things updated from a compliance control, and also give prescriptive guidance, which often is missing. Because what is the next, 10 things I need to do to achieve that? So, Sandeep, in your views, how has been, the experience has been? If you can share as well.
Yeah, sure, Prashant. Okay. So, as I was telling you earlier, right, there are a lot of challenges, right? And there are multiple solutions which are available, right? But we need a single solution which gives a complete end-to-end view to us, okay? And how are we faring overall in our security, in our compliances and all that, right? Because that's the key, bottom line, right? Mm-hmm. So we have gone through this compliance manager. We have implemented a couple of standard compliances or frameworks. Okay, so we have implemented the ISO 27001 framework. We have implemented GDPR. Okay, so GDPR was the first framework with which we went live. Then we did ISO 27001, and then now we are also looking at TI SAX and other compliances. Okay, TI SAX is probably something related to transportation industry. Okay, so probably not everyone would use it, but yeah, we have that need, so we will definitely use that. Okay, but what I love, Prashant and Subodh, is it also has provision for doing a completely custom compliance also, right? So that feature is also available. So that is very helpful for us also. So because we have some large ODCs, large programs running, okay, and these ODCs and large programs have their own compliance needs, security needs, and other things, right? Mm-hmm. So with this same tool, Compliance Manager, I'm able to configure, okay, what I need for a particular ODC, okay, or for my large program. And I can completely track how that entire thing is faring up. Where is my compliance score? Where are my weaknesses? And it's a complete online workflow also. Okay, so it helps me. And during the audits, I just have to open that and show, hey, this is how we have done. This is the workflow. These are the evidences. Okay, and it makes my life much simpler than maintaining Excel's evidences and all that thing, right? So now it's all online, and then I can combine everything, and also I can show, okay, overall, this is how I'm doing. So it helps a lot. So especially I am in love with it. So that, honestly.
Thanks,
because it's
Sandeep,
making
for
my
sharing
life
this.
Very simple and easy. Okay, honestly.
Thanks, Sandeep. And this is really inspiring for us, to keep impacting this area and keep innovating as we address some of the key challenges. I'll switch over to Subodh to continue the journey around the compliance and data discovery domain in terms of other solution areas as well. Subodh, over to you.
Yeah, so don't click on EDiscovery. I will keep it this slide and I will give my commentary here. So because this product has been in existence for more years than when I compare with say compliance core. I think Sandeep articulated the need very well that there are legal worries because of which you want to have your document discovery done and be ready for that. Now, from engineering point of view, our challenge is to do this discovery or enable this discovery at a massive scale. So scale is important. And that's where we have invested in deep crawling and deep indexing across your digital estate. So it not only includes your, it includes services which Microsoft 365 provides, but it also goes and does support other content, which we'll talk about as part of our heterogeneous support again. Then the second piece where we are investing a lot in making that experience intelligent, which means we use ML models to see if there are content which are redundant, which are not useful, because we have a classification tech which is already running on those. And we use that to only show that content in the search which makes sense to organization. Then the last thing which we have done is like we have done in all our solution, and that's where the term solution we use is an end-to-end experience. So as an end-to-end experience, we have given experience for user to work at in a document or by tagging document, etc., or work at a document set, or do any other activity in a more end-to-end fashion. So that is what we do in our EDiscovery solution. Then moving over to
sorry. So if you allow me, okay, so just to add on, because I have experienced this personally, so I thought I'll just add on to what you have told. Okay, so we have also used your labeling solutions and your EDiscovery, okay, and how it works with DLP and CASB. Okay, so the unified labeling solution, what we have, so once you define the labels, they work pretty well for all your documents as well as your emails, and I can also wrap my engineering documents also. Okay, so we can do that. Okay, and then we can track where the documents are flowing, who are using it, which country, who are the users. Okay, so we can even track the documents. Okay, now based upon the label and the content of the documents, okay, my MIP, Microsoft Information Protection Solution, the whole suite, it also protects if the data is getting leaked from your endpoints. It protects data if it is getting leaked from your cloud solutions through your cloud application security solution. Okay, so, and it also gives triggers to me in insider risks. Okay, it does the entire analytics. I don't have to go and to pull the data from my desktops or from my cloud solutions or my emails. Okay, no, I need not do that. Okay, the entire thing is done by the product, and it gives me saying, okay, these are your top 5 people where you might have to look, and it gives me entire historical data also. See, over last 1 month or last 2 months, this is what they have done. And I can see, okay, departing employees, what is it? Disgruntled employees, what is it? Okay, so I can completely track it. Yeah, I thought I'll just add this view.
No, thank you. Thank you, Sandeep. I think you said it very well, actually, better than me. I will just provide a commentary on communication compliance on this slide. This solution is new solution. And what it does is it goes through Teams, chat, email messages, and all those texts, and picks up if there are any violation, as an example of harassment of different kind, right? And picks up that and creates an incident, and then it creates a complete workflow on top of it, so that legal department, HR, business heads, employees manager, employees who are concerned here, they all can interact with each other and resolve that specific incident. And as Prashant has rightly highlighted, this is the kind of dashboard which comes. So we have seen this customer need coming in, which deals with NLP and all the language which is being used, and that's where the solution goes and addresses it. And again, it's designed as a solution. Can you go back, Prashant?
And just to add, I think a third-party content ingestion, there are places where these insights cannot be provided by the solution in principle which you are using. The way the philosophy is that you can ingest the data in Microsoft platform, and the same level of crawling to look at these areas also can light up. So just to open up the space, we have thought through a lot of areas in this space. Going back to as Sandeep has mentioned, please Sandeep. Sorry, Subodh. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I will build to next slide then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this slide covers the data protection aspect of need, which was expressed. I think these are 6 needs which you folks have already talked about. Now, Sandeep has already talked about this, what we refer as know your data. As part of this solution, and in this solution, the underlying service which we have built, which works at cloud scale, is classification. It crawls, goes to all the services which Microsoft 365 has, goes and does similar classification policy enforcement through whatever CASB solution you are using in your organization. And Microsoft do have its own CASB solution, MCAS, and use the same classification policies, etc. To tag a document or sensitive types. And once we have that, then it provides you across your digital estate what all types of sensitive data is where, who is accessing it, who is working on it. And that was the part which Sandeep was describing is one need. Now this tagging or labels are then also used for enabling retention, which we have discussed as part of governed data, where we have seen record keeping needs, record management needs that label or tag. We have also seen in compliance and EDiscovery, same level is used to find out a document. If you want to find out a payroll document, or you want to find out a source code document, right? You can find that document out because it's already labeled, because there is the underlying same service running. And the same service then enables the subsequent, can you go back, Prashant, to the previous screen? So then the same service, which is classification, enables the next set of solution we call as protect your data. And that's where DLP comes in, or encryption comes in, etc. Right? And again, when we design this experience, there's a built-in experience. There are built-in playbooks and policies with templates across globe available there. And then you can create a policy with actions and other primitives which you have, conditions, etc. And you can decide which security group you want to apply, which places you want to apply. Now, the way we have designed this solution, same labels are also available for creating action and protection through MCAS into any third-party services which as an organization you are using. Can you come back to previous screen, Prashant? Then it brings me to the third solution, which is insider risk. Sandeep has already talked about it. Let me describe the engineering thinking which has gone into this. So we see insider risk sitting on top of all of our solution, because it needs a entire user and entity behavior which is happening, which is with us in context of a tenant, which is customer signal, in audit logs, in DLP incidents, in compliance manager violations, in all those solutions, in all those products, we have those information. So we are now created a solution which mines all the signals and builds on top of that risk score, and then it flags incident. So if you have, as an example, a signal coming from your HR system that some employee has resigned or leaving your organization, and in context of that employee, this solution just goes and looks into, say, last 90 days activity. And then if it finds out if there is any suspicious activity where a massive document was copied and this massive document has sensitive content, remember, there is this classification service which is always going on. So that's why the signal is already with us. and then it goes and detects and flags it as a issue, as you can see in the specific example which Prashant is highlighting. It's visible. So that's how this solution works. So this solution for us is sitting on top of rest of the solution, mining all the signal, and it is designed to not only mine Microsoft signal but also third-party signal, and it has those integration points there. Prashant, can you come back? Yeah, so just to sort of summarize here for last three things, and I think Sandeep highlighted in his last narrative that labels or classification is a key service, very strategic service, which then lights up multiple solutions for us across these three set of needs which we have just seen. Over to you, Prashant.
Thank you. And now we revisit the same problem statement as we highlighted. We have literally, gone through various charters which address various compliance needs, and we generally understand that our probably classic philosophy has been maybe address a particular problem statement at one point of time with a solution addressing a certain need a requirement for a particular data storage strategy. When you look at the evolution of last few years of and the need of increased data privacy regulation addressing risk, compliance and risk, and the data breaches which is happening, we have come to a stage where we generally want to put all of these together as objective in places, and with your spread out data strategy and how things have evolved, and let Subodh dwell upon the overall thought process, how from a solutioning standpoint, a strategy standpoint, how you want to reflect it to the audience here as well. So both, you want to highlight it? Yeah.
Yeah, so this, when I was hearing Sandeep responding to your question to describe when he said we are using Azure, we are using AWS, we are using customer tenant, we are using our own tenant. You can see, and we have seen this with all customers, and typically customers are in their own cloud native journey. They have some set of app services running still on-prem, some are on different clouds, etc. So when we examined it, we realized two things actually. One, that to enable all the solutions which you've just talked about in previous screen, with data which is scattered so broad or wide, becomes trickier actually. And that's where we realized the second thing, that Microsoft 365 can create, give an alternative or a choice to our customers, where they can bring in this data copy, so that then this data sits with all M365 service data itself, and hence when you go and do a EDiscovery search, you are not only able to find out Exchange data or your OneDrive or SharePoint data, but also you're able to find out data coming from any third-party cloud services. I'm just not going to name some of those which are indicated on your screen. So with that as a principle, can you click, Prashant? I have some more slides here to describe on that part. We identified something called as Microsoft compliance ecosystem. And we said Microsoft compliance ecosystem is comprised of pre-built data connector, which makes it easier for our customers to get copy of this data from those sources. We have also enabled APIs, and then there are built-in customization, which uses which identifies and protects sensitive information and uses ML, and same classification services and ML which we talked about in past previously. One thing which we have ensured when we designed this data connector, which is right side of screen, which you can see, is that it needs to be served from one single catalog, so that customers who have, let's say, 5 different sources which are non-Microsoft can choose and select from one single source, and there is an easy, simple deployment experience. Then they can run that as a job, which is a scheduled job or a one-time job, to start ingesting data so that those copies are brought into Microsoft 365. And once it is brought in, then solutions work naturally. You don't have to do any additional work. The other thing which we have done while designing connector is we have tried to maintain the fidelity of data, so that if there is a chat thread, it looks like thread when you are consuming it. And that's of course a work which is complicated work, but that is one of the design principles which we kept. So hence, when you bring in a data which is coming from any third-party IM, you will see those are shown more as a chat thread rather than plain vanilla textual information. So that makes it easier for you when you are consuming it as part of your discovery process, or when this same data is being used as part of communication supervision or any such thing. Like in Compliance Manager, we are planning and have signals coming in from third party, which are config signals. Same way for communication and insider risk, we will have signals which are coming from different IM chats and other services which customers are using. So that's how this connector set is designed. Can you click one more? And this slide indicates all the connectors which we have right now. Some are built by our partners, which are indicated. Some are built by us. But net is we are very bullish about this piece of strategy, that we got to support our customers' heterogeneous environment, and we see that by bringing the data in Microsoft 365, it simplifies action for our customer. Over to you, Prashant.
Thanks, so both for lighting up the overall thought process. How we look at the entire data space, not just the way Microsoft 365, but trying to address the compliant need from the places where customers are collaborating in and having data repositories and different form shapes. And even those solutions may not address the compliance need through the integrations, may or may not, but how we are trying to ingest that and supporting the compliance objectives. With that, we have come to the end of the entire discussion, and we have a few takeaways to share with the audience. One is, at this stage, we understood the nature of the various compliance objectives, and it's a lot. And over the years of the fragmented data strategy, one of the things can be thought through is the choice of a data consolidation or the henceforth data strategy can be towards specific areas where you gain maximum compliance, because ultimately whether we accept or not, we will still be responsible for ensuring the applicability audit and investigation and various controls for that. One of the benchmarks we have tried to establish with this masterclass is how Microsoft and our compliance solution and Microsoft 365 as a platform as well, where all of these needs can be met beautifully in an integrated manner across these, help address these needs. So definitely it can be part of one of your key data strategies, because we are trying to ensure we look at everything in togetherness. Secondly, data lifecycle management would be a key to address the data explosion needs, how to ensure data creation, sensitive data retention, and the data deletion of what data is no longer for business use has to be part of the overall data lifecycle. We have solutions which help address that need with our platform services as well. In terms of data governance, and knowing is the first step itself, which definitely is the starting point. But defining the next 3 steps of protecting, defining data sharing scenarios, and ensuring the protection applies across collaboration experiences internally or externally is also a key area. And then the governance, the retention deletion. So the strategy has to be thought through across the next 5 steps, which we will take, inclusive of first starting with know your data. So that's also the philosophy we want to ensure is landed. And the compliance assessment, with to sum it all, it's not about just gap identification, but also mapping the technology applicability with respect to the set of technology controls and the collaboration controls you have, with prescriptive guidance, with evidence capturing and tracking and continuous assessment. So if you look at this is how we have thought through the compliance assessment, rather than just a place to define the gap, but then what is the next step we have to take. So these things, the way we've thought through, definitely we want to put across to the audience how we're trying to address these heterogeneous challenge. With that, I want to thank Subodh and Sandeep for sharing the customer industry perspective and the Microsoft engineering security engineering philosophy to address these challenges. Thank you, audience and the industry, key members for spending the time with us. And thanks a lot. Thank you. Stay safe. Take care. Thank you.